and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Jenna, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee Stauff.
Here.
Trustee Belt. Here. Trustee Pater. Here. Trustee Kreiser.
Here.
President Knutson.
Here.
And Trustee Rhodey and Trustee Grabowski are excused.
Okay. Second agenda item is the public hearing for planned unit development PUD overlay district rezoning request, including the underlying building architecture, materials, color, site layout, exterior lighting, landscaping, fencing, and similar related plans for a proposed car wash development to be located at 120 Simmons Avenue. The applicant is MSI General, NCO Cameron McFarland. The property owner is Wiley Group, LLC. The 1.08 acre property is zoned B2 Downtown Business District. I hereby open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here this evening that would like to speak on that? Okay, then I'm going to move on to the next item. We close the public hearing. Okay, I'll look for the approval of the village board meeting October 7th, 2025. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections as to the way they are presented this evening? And if there are none, I'll look for a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve as presented. Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain, Stauff.
Okay, one abstention. Minutes are hereby approved 4-1. Okay, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinions with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with time being indicated by an audible alarm. When the alarm sounds, speakers are asked to conclude their comments. Speakers are asked to use the podium and state their name and address for the record, please. I'll just throw it out there. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a comment at this time? It could be on anything. Okay, well then I guess we'll move on. The next one is ordinance. Review, discussion, and possible action on ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance to create section 21.08 of the municipal code of the Village of Pewaukee regarding regulation of aeration circulating pumps on Pewaukee Lake. Matt, I think this was at the last board meeting, and it was just coming back now with the ordinance.
Correct, President Knutson. At the last village board meeting, the village representative on the Lake Advisory Committee, Trustee Grabowski, reported to the group that they had had a meeting in September and were recommending to the 3 governing bodies that participate in the Lake Advisory Committee to pass an ordinance that would adopt state statutes for regulating aerators. And the one before you was composed by the village attorney, and the other 2 bodies have already approved theirs. Town of Delafield and City of Pewaukee.
Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular item?
I have one question. Since we'll be, which I think is great, that we'll be having the signage and all of that, and this isn't directly, I guess, related to this ordinance, but should we be considering looking at, like, do we need signage in any other locations if there's natural open water? My only concern with, and why I bring that up, is last year, you know, we had that big open spot in the middle of the lake, and if we have a lot of areas that are now signed as open water, and then we're leaving other areas that are open water unsigned, are people going to start thinking that everything that's open is now signed? Does that make sense?
No, I know what your question is. I guess it's something though that's not, to my knowledge, addressed by what the state has on the books as to what signage is required for open water that's not otherwise man-made. I'm not aware that there is any. Because what we're doing with this ordinance is really just adopting what the state has on the books, being able to enforce it for those situations where this is man-made. I don't think we have any obligation, or I don't want to say we don't have authority. I think we could do it, but I'm not aware that we have an obligation to do that. So if it's something that the communities want to consider in a different ordinance adding on, it's certainly something that could happen, but it would have to go through the same process with the three communities. So if it is a concern, I would suggest that that probably come organically from the lake.
Any other questions or comments?
Like,
Yes, sir.
One question, this might be of ignorance. Are there any powerful enough aerators that even if they're within 30 feet of a building, that can create a massive amount of open water?
Well, part of this is in response to an issue that occurred last winter, where an aerator, and I don't know how, I can't speak to the power of it, but it was placed in such a way that it was impeding the, essentially the public lake access point down here in Layton Park. So the short answer to your question is, yeah, there are situations, we've had one, that was kind of the genesis for part of this ordinance at least, that they can impact the immediately adjacent riparian rights of some of these property owners. The village just happened to be that property owner in this instance. As to the aerators and the different varieties and the powers on those, I defer to the lake residents and those that ice fish, because I don't know. I share the same ignorance.
The reason I ask is just that property owner, I know the intention of the aerator there, and I don't think they have an intention to violate this ordinance, but who's gonna monitor it and like the power of it, and what happens if it creates the space that they need, but then it creates a little bit more? Maybe it's natural, you know, how do we draw a line there?
Sure. So, I mean, the intention with this is to give our lake patrol an enforcement power that they don't currently have. Because what happened with this instance was, like any other instance, when something comes to the village, we have an enforcement capability. And when it came to us, it turned out that the enforcement capability we had was relatively limited. So we wanted to create a citable ordinance like any other citable ordinance we have in our books that leaves it to the discretion and the experience of the investigating officer, in this case, the Lake Patrol, to be able to look at a situation, look at our code and see, okay, is this situation code compliant or not? So we leave it up to the officers to enforce.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
The only other comment I wanted to add is that staff has routinely evaluated the ice for safety and has closed, just like they did last winter when they thought the conditions weren't safe, closed the access point, whether it's natural or man-made.
Okay. There are no other comments or questions, so I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance to create section 21.8 of the municipal code of the village of Pewaukee regarding regulation and aeration / circulating pumps on Pewaukee Lake.
Second, Pater?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 2025-13 is hereby adopted. Review, discussion, and possible action on resolution number 2025-14 to amend and establish certain fees related to Forest Hill Cemetery. I think, Jenna, you wanted this on besides myself, eh?
Sure, yes, yeah, because.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So if the board recalls, this was on the September 16th meeting. There were a few questions, and the board wanted me to come back with more information on the actual costs of time versus materials for the burials. Jay Bickler, the DPW supervisor, came back with those, and I did have those listed. I just gotta find them. And I broke them down based off of the lowest paid employee that he gave me at $28 an hour and the highest paid employee at $33 an hour. The left side are the full body burials and the right side are the cremains. So I do have those broken down. And then I also have the foundation fees broken down at the bottom. So if anybody has any questions on those, I can try and answer them.
And my question was, when I talked to Matt about this, was that I have heard over the years through different residents that they would like to know why people that have lived here for most of their life and then maybe have moved to another community in their elderly years, like to Florida or Arizona or someplace, passed away and then came back, why they were forced to pay an out of Pewaukee fee, even though they were residents for the majority of their life. And I just said it was at that time, the board has decided that if you're not a resident of the Pewaukees, that the price was higher. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you feel that that should stay like that, I am fine with that. I have no issues with that. But the question did arise to me, and I thought this would be a good time to bring it up. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board. Are there any questions or comments? And if there aren't, then would somebody like to make a motion? Yes.
I don't want this to be a sticking point of tonight, but, and this kind of hits me weird. But if the infant burials are about the same time in labor as a cremains burial, why is it more expensive on the non-resident side? Wouldn't it just match the same?
Just on the non-resident side, or?
Yeah. So it looks like the infant burial is currently $750. We would drop it to $500, and then from $1,250 to $1,000. But on cremains only, it's $500 and $750.
I just took the $250 off of the non-resident for it.
Okay.
Yeah, make the $1,000.
I just
But
don't-
I mean, we could change it to whatever you.
I mean, I'm just thinking like that's just, I mean, a terrible time of anybody's life, and then this becomes a burden of any factor.
And luckily, we don't have many, but
Yeah.
I did just notice that we were pretty high compared to everybody else on the infant burials. So I just wanted to present it.
And just to piggyback off of President Knutson's comment, if the village does have any recording capability, and maybe we could put some sort of variance in there or whatever it is, saying if you lived in the village for X amount of time, you qualify as a resident.
I agree. I was thinking 25 to 30 years.
Yeah, something of that nature. I mean, I think it's an honor to be buried in the village that you spent most of your life at. And I don't want to see us as a board creating any burdens or any kind of roadblocks for that to happen. I don't know how difficult that would be or how difficult. it would be
Right,
to-
yeah, the only thing we would run into is how do they prove that to us? What would they give
Right.
us to prove that? Right.
Right.
I originally had the same sentiment about if someone had lived here and then a lot of people leave their home, you know, as they get elderly. But then, I think this even was brought up when this originally was presented, that it's very standard for all communities to have a resident and non-resident amount. So that alleviated that a little bit for me. Secondly, in regards to the cost, this exercise was done to make sure we weren't losing money by providing these burial services. So I think we should keep that in mind as well.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Again, if someone would like to make a motion as it relates to Resolution 2025-14.
President Knudsen, if I can make a suggestion, if they want to do it as presented, or if they want to change something, could they make a motion to, as presented, but just change this amount, if that would make them feel more comfortable, or?
Well, if it's just changing an amount, like a dollar amount, I'm comfortable with the board making that amendment.
Okay.
Sort of motion, but if the change is substantive to put in like a minimum definition of what a resident would be, if not at the time of purchase, so along the lines of, they may not be a resident when they're purchasing the grave, but they can establish proof that they lived in the village for X amount of years prior to that. That's more substantive. I'd rather it be deferred with that direction, and then we can come back.
Yes, sir.
And I'm thinking on the opposite direction too, and this happens in the school districts as well, is what happens is, you know, a person, they want to be buried in Pewaukee for some reason, and then they sign up with their uncle that's lived here, and they lived here for one day. Then they become a resident. Obviously, we're going to the extremes here, but if we can just define what residency is to some degree, I would like to see that in here at some point. If we can maybe defer it to, and then maybe attorney could add some language to that.
I'm happy to do that. I guess the direction I would need is what beyond the common definition of resident. I understand your points of, you know, somebody coming in, I don't foresee that happening, but somebody establishing residency for a day just to get a resident right in the cemetery.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't see an issue with that side of the extreme. But if there's like an X amount, you know, that somebody lived in the village for, I guess that's the direction I would need from the board, is the number, what would establish residency if not at, is it 20 years, is it 25? That's the policy.
We also use the terms resident and non-resident for a lot of things. I would think that it's a pretty standard process of what that is.
Yeah, no, there's a common definition that we apply throughout other areas of the code. This would be specific to this resolution. If the board wants to depart from the common definition and say, resident is not only somebody that's a resident now at the time of purchase, a resident is somebody that was a resident for a minimum amount.
I have a question. How common is it for a living resident to purchase a plot in advance?
We're seeing more and more. It's typically after someone has passed, but like a wife or a husband will buy it for a past spouse. But it's pretty common.
Okay. I wonder if that would then,
We actually have a lot of people who live in the city that want to be here as well, so that would technically not be a resident.
Okay.
I would say we have been getting more non-residents lately, actually.
So you could purchase a plot before you move to Arizona or to Florida. Is that what you're getting at, Trustee? Brady?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe you don't need a residence.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you can just pre-purchase.
Yeah, plan ahead.
Yes, yeah.
So we can avoid that whole thing. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can purchase it at any time.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is for city too, right?
Right, so if they live in the city and they purchased their plot, but they live in the city, that would be a non-resident. But if they lived here and purchased it and then moved away, then they'd get the non-resident burial fee. So it's just a little different. So you can purchase it and get the resident price if you live here. But if you have moved to Florida and you want to get buried, you would get charged the non-resident price if you moved away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that bit of information, would somebody now like to make a motion to approve or disapprove or defer?
Matt, could they do half and half? If they like the fees, could they keep the fees, or do you want to just bring it all back?
I never like half and half. So
Yeah, okay.
let's do it all at once. Let's do it
Okay.
as clean as possible if that's the way the board wants to go.
I'll throw it out there. I'll just,
So I have one more question. So you're saying that if I buy a plot today, and then I move away to Florida, and I die, and I'm in Florida, and I want to be back here and go in my plot in the cold, I have to pay as a non-resident, even though as a resident, I bought that plot.
Correct.
Well, for
I
the
feel like that's
burial
where it
part,
was.
for the burial portion.
For the burial portion, you would be considered a
Even
non-resident,
though I
according to our, so we could change that to say if you purchased here, even though you've moved somewhere else, you would still be considered a resident
Maybe I
burial.
grandfathered in because I
Right.
purchased. Okay.
I agree, I think those two things should be the same. That seems confusing.
Mhm.
to
It is
someone.
sometimes to us.
So, defer?
Well, I mean, it sounds like that there's gonna be some deferment, I guess. The direction staff needs is, what are we deferring it for? What changes are we making?
So I'll throw a motion out there. So I would make a motion to approve as presented with making the either resident or non-resident the same for one person. However, we would be able to do that. Like, if they're purchased as a resident, it would,
It
however
would
they were as
follow the
purchased,
burial.
yeah, at time of purchasing.
Right.
Super clear, I know, but.
Would
You
you
get it.
want that to go the other way, where if they lived in the city and they purchased it, would they get the resident burial if they moved here, or they wouldn't? Because then that's the opposite.
Yeah, now I understand why.
Yeah.
So there's two different fees in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess trustee, do you want to rescind your motion so we can discuss this?
Yes, yeah, let me rescind for,
So there's two different fees in play. There's the cost of buying the plot, correct? And then there's the
Yeah.
cost,
Yes.
which has a resident, non-resident distinction. And then there's a burial fee, which also has a resident, non-resident distinction. It sounds like the board has trouble with charging a fee at burial that's different between resident and non. Is that fair to say? You'd like to see that fee be the same across the board?
that's where I was going.
Okay.
Well,
Right, like a time of purchase. right?
whatever you purchase it at, you would match the same resident rate
You
for what you're
purchase,
buried at. Yeah,
so if you purchase a plot as a resident, you get the
yeah,
resident burial rate.
right.
Or there could just be one charge for burials. Like maybe the resident, non-resident is only at the time of purchase, and then the burials, there's only one fee.
We do see that a lot with other municipalities. I think on my spreadsheet, we are the only ones who distinguish resident and non-resident for burials. Everyone just charges a flat fee otherwise.
Well, it seems to me that that would be a simple fix.
Right, yeah.
We'll eliminate that distinction for the burial portion.
Mhm.
So one flat fee.
Just one flat fee for everybody.
Yep, and if you want to make that distinction between resident and non-resident, you do that at the time of purchase
Yeah.
of the plot.
I like that.
So then the question becomes, what is the flat fee for burial?
Yeah, what?
What is the flat fee for burial that is the,
Split the two.
that's what the board has to decide.
Yeah, that, well, my recommendation would be just to take the average of the two. Are we okay with changing the infant burial recommendation to $750 to match the remains as well? To lower that rate? And the deferment? Doesn't matter, I mean, just,
Say that again?
so the infant burial recommended rate is $500 for resident and $1,000 non-resident. And it says in the notes that it the same cost as a cremains only,
Hmm.
but yet it's more expensive than cremains only. So I just don't know why it's more expensive.
So do you just want to see that be 500 across the board then, for infant? Or 400 to match the cremains, you mean, down below? My cremains recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want that 400, you're
Mhm.
thinking?
Wait a minute. My understanding, you want the burial fee to be the same as the cremate fee?
Just for infant,
For what?
just for infant.
Just for infant,
That's what he's saying, just for infant.
yeah. So the infant burial will match the cremains burial.
which would be 400 is my recommendation.
Correct.
Okay.
So instead of 500,000, it'd be 400, 900, right?
But just for the cremains. Okay,
So
Right, because there's no infant plots. That would be a regular plot purchase at 1,000.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, there's no infant plot. It would just be the same.
right, so we're talking
So
about
just the burial fee.
where the,
Yeah.
where the normal,
Yeah,
where the cremain area is now gonna be.
right. This is in the normal portion of the section.
Right.
Yeah, the cemetery.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments? We need to bring this back.
Well, you either need to,
I think we
feel
got
more
this.
comfortable.
I think we can, I think we're getting there.
you either need to bring it back, or the motion needs to be specific as to the fees that you want to be charged for each city.
I would recommend that the board bring it back,
Just the-
just so we all
Present
understand
it clean.
exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. And it looks like you want to take it effect November 1st, right?
But I
that
can
would be-
change that if need be.
So will you be updating it with the infant burial recommendation and then removing the residence portion from the burials in totality?
Yep, so in totality, the regular burials, the cremains burials, and the infant burials will not have a non-resident fee. They'll all be the same, splitting the difference. And then the the infant burials will be 400. The cremains will be 400. The full body will be 1,000. And let's see, cremains, whoops, hold on. Where's my full body one? I gotta look at my. Okay, here we go. Okay, full body fee 1,000. Yep. So no non-residents for burial fees. Okay, 1,000 for full body, 400 for infant, 400 for cremains.
Mhm.
And then everything else on there is okay too. So we're adding the recording fee because we're not recording them right now. So, yep, okay. Got it.
That works.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
We'll look for a motion to defer until the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to defer until the next meeting where we can review these changes together.
Second, Peter.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is hereby approved. Old business, review, discussion, and possible action on 2026 budget proposals for the village. Matt, things are looking really well, thank you.
Thank you, President Knudsen. Just for the benefit of the public that are here tonight, to remind the board of what the action that's, or the activity that's already taken place. We are knee-deep in the budget season, the most wonderful time of the year. And the village board has already heard proposals from Parks and Recreation for 2026 and the public library. And the board actually had action with the public library to approve the requested amount, which we needed to do to get the tax exempt status from the county. The board has heard proposals from the police department and the municipal court. And then at the most recent board meeting, proposals from the Public Works Department and the 3 utilities, water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater. Then included some capital needs in the utilities and 3 proposed street projects and some equipment purchases for Public Works. So the information that is new for tonight's meeting, we have the addition of 2 minor funds. We have the cemetery fund that the village clerk does, and also a proposal or a recommended budget from the Lake Advisory Board or Lake Patrol Committee for their 2026 budget, the Lake Patrol budget. And also new tonight, we have a proposal for the fire EMS fee. And we received the information from the city. As you know, it's based on a calculation of what the city budgets for their fire service, and then a portion of that is paid for by the village. And the numbers were fairly favorable, where overall, our costs are proposed to go up about 2.5%. And when you realize that per our agreement with the city, where we have about an additional 2% of the village's portion going up every year until we reach 100, that means there's actually only about 0.5% variance in cost. So what that nets out to for an ESE, an equivalent, emergency service equivalent, is an additional $11 proposed for 2026.
Are there any questions or comments as it relates to the proposals this evening, the budget? Kelly?
Yeah. One thing I noticed looking at the insurance line item, we're only increasing 1.73% on insurance. Has that been looked at? Have the insurance companies been contacted as to what our actual increases are going to be? I mean, this is general, this is not health insurance. No health insurance is gonna be drastic, probably closer to 15% increase. But my experience is that insurance rates are going up about 8%, and we have a 1.73% increase.
Yep, that's correct. And we did contact our brokers for that information. And we had budgeted a little bit more than we needed to for this year, so we don't need to add on the full additional 10% increase that we're anticipating for next year.
And then the fund balances. So we budgeted about $175,000 surplus last year for our general fund. But now, year to date, it looks like we're currently over $1.15 million.
Yeah, so you're,
Or under, profitable, I'll say. Not the right choice of words, given that we're a municipality.
retained earnings?
Yes, I guess from a net income standpoint, which then increases that general fund budget up to over the $5 million mark. So, if I'm understanding correctly, that any overage, so let's say it comes to $1 million surplus, that's the word I was looking for, sorry, $1 million surplus, that then is going to get funneled into our infrastructure fund.
That's correct. That's the financial policy of the village, right?
So then that is money that we can then use to help offset potential debt for these large projects that we have in our water area, if we so chose. I'm curious too on how the water fund is on this worksheet that I have that shows our fund balances, and we're showing negative fund balance. Is that because we're not including our financing
Correct,
in that?
correct, yep.
Okay,
Proceeds from debt, right.
yeah, okay. So that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify that. All right, so given where we are, do we have the quarter 3 financials later on the agenda?
There.
Okay.
I will add a comment, Trustee Belt. You had commented about the projected final impact of the general fund at the
Yeah.
last meeting. And when the village treasurer and I looked into that, we noted that the mathematics of how the spreadsheet worked wasn't really a true projection. It was, this is what it would be if the fiscal year ended as of the date that the report is run, which isn't looking forward. So we've slated that as a winter project for us to correct for 2026 to be a more effective tool.
Okay, that's fine. And I know I got the updated one that appears to be a little bit more reasonable.
Right, right.
Than what was here. So then, where are you thinking we're going? If you had your crystal ball, people think I have a crystal ball in my office every day, so I understand these questions can be a little.
Can I
a little
borrow it?
irritating. Well, where would you project we're going to be ending the year surplus-wise?
I'd like to defer that for the next meeting.
That's fine.
Just because we are very, very conservative in terms of our projections of like interest income. So that's very favorable to us in that the last couple of years, we've earned a lot more interest. That's just an example than we put in our formal budget. So,
And I'm assuming that's from the LGIP funds that you guys been
yeah,
investing
correct.
in.
Yep. Yeah, so if I could defer that till the next meeting, that'd be wonderful.
No, that's absolutely fine.
We don't know the police budget either yet.
What was it?
The police budget, I don't believe that hasn't been figured into this yet.
It has.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Oh, it has.
It
Yeah,
has.
we've already done the
Yep.
police budget.
No, I'm talking the negotiations that are going on.
Oh, no,
No,
no.
That has not been figured into here.
Because we don't have an answer on that yet.
no, but that's, no, guess there's no answer to that yet. I think that's all I had this time around.
Is that it? Is there any other questions or comments? Well, in that case, I'm gonna move on. Thank you, Matt. Okay, under new business. Item 8A, review discussion and possible action on proposed land use of automotive repair service store for property located immediately west of Menards, north of Jilly's Car Wash, PWV 0901984006. The proposed development would be part of the 38.72 acre B1 Community Business District and a planned unit development overlay and C2 Conservancy District split zone. The property is owned by Meadow Creek Limited Partnership and applicant is William Bostick, DBA Christian Brothers Automotive. This is being sent to us by the Planning Commission and with a majority vote of all members on the Planning Commission. So, Matt, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, if I could just because the village board members don't frequently get involved with zoning type stuff, just to kind of provide a little bit of a background. So zoning is how a community controls land use, and we try to group districts, zoning districts with common land uses, and that way we prevent people from living next door to loud factories or things like that, right? So we have different districts for residencies and commercial and industrial use. And then we have kind of this special category called a planned unit development. So when you have special circumstances where the proposed use doesn't really fit really well there, but we want it to go there, we can lay this special layer on top of it, and that allows for some exceptions to our zoning code. So in this particular case, we have a national car repair chain that's proposed to go kind of next to Menards. And back in the late 90s, when this commercial area was created, they also created a planned unit development overlay with its own rules. And one of those rules is it needs specific approval if you're going to do automotive service work to occur there, which is why it's before you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Is there any insight to why that had to come to us for approval for automobile services?
That's how the PUD was created back in the late 90s. And I think the concern was at the time when the commercial development was being proposed, Mr. Forrester can certainly provide history. I think the concern that the village had was that it was just going to be littered with like convenience stores and filling stations. And so to prevent that from just filling up with those, they wanted each individual automotive service use to come before the board for review.
Any other questions or comments? If there are none, I would look for a motion.
On the agenda,
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed land use for the automated repair service store. Is that sufficient, Matt?
Yes.
Second, Vader?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Item B, review, discussion, and possible action on a recommendation to the village board from the Planning Commission for Planned Unit Development, PUD, overlay district rezoning, including the underlying building architecture, materials, colors, site layout, exterior lighting, landscaping, fencing, and similar related plans for proposed car wash development to be located at 120 Simmons Avenue. The applicant is MSI General. NCO Cameron McFarland. The property owner is Wiley Group LLC. The 1.0 acre property is zoned B2 Downtown Business District. Again, this was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and the village board has control of final say on this type of situation. And so it was approved by the Planning Commission. And Matt, do you have anything more that you'd like to add?
Yes, please, Mr. President. So this is similar to the last item, but it's your lucky day. You get to have two PUD items on the same agenda. So in this particular case, we have a new car wash that's proposed in the former site of the Four Star Family Restaurant. And that parcel is zoned B2, which does not allow for an automotive service business. So there are a couple of different ways that our code would allow to try and change that circumstance. And one of them is to implement this special layer, a planned unit development overlay. Now, that's a zoning change for that parcel. And I believe per state statute, anytime you change the zoning of a parcel, that takes village board approval.
Correct.
So that is why that's before you tonight, a little bit different than the previous item.
Yeah, the previous item was approval that was part of the ordinance that was originally adopted. This agenda item is actually changing your zoning code, amending the zoning map to this particular parcel to add the PUD overlay district on top of the existing zoning. By doing that, the board and the plan commission and the village is able to work with the developer and have a controlled development consistent with the requirements and conditions that are in the ordinance before you that was recommended.
Any questions or comments?
When zoning is changed, is it forever changed?
It can be changed in the future. So this isn't,
It's, the way to answer that question is it's forever changed until the board would change it again.
Changes again?
yeah,
it's like we're changing it now.
that's way better than my answer.
If there are no further questions or comments, again, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the planned unit development, the district rezone for 120 Simmons Avenue,
As presented?
as presented.
Second, Vader?
Here we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, and possible action regarding removal of existing deck with replacement to a concrete patio at Lehman Family Park. I hope everyone's had a chance to go over everything that was given to us. Are there any questions or comments for Nick? If there aren't any, then somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion for the removal of the existing deck with replacement of a new concrete patio at Lehman Family Park.
Just looking at Nick's motion here, are you looking for a 15% contingency?
Yes, please.
With a 15% contingency.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second, Stout.
Here we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, of possible action regarding replacement lighting conversion to LED lights at Kiwanis Village Park. Again, I hope everyone's had a chance to read through it. Looks like it's gonna save us some money. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to that particular item? Nick is here again if you have any questions. Yes, sir.
I only have one question. So a few meetings ago, we discussed like a 5-year and a 10-year plan for Village Park. And obviously there's nothing set there for anything. But it looks like that there'll be some property improvements and some demolition of some property and structures at Village Park in the future. Have we taken that in consideration of investing into the current infrastructure as much as this is?
I don't know that I'm familiar with what you're proposing at Village Park, demolition of.
Yeah, so like I said, it's an idea and it's a thought right now, but we were presented with the possible improvement of a multi-use space there to
Center.
replace the current structures and pavilions and to beautify the park and connect it with downtown and the Riverwalk and everything. And that's like a 5-year, 10-year plan. I mean, when I did an LED light analysis of my small little house, I said, like, how many years is this actually gonna benefit me? How many, it was just a fun project for myself and my kid to do. But are we willing to invest $7,000 and then all of a sudden in 3 years we tear down that building?
What the trustee's referring to is their strategic plan workshop.
Sure. And I guess I wasn't quite as aware of maybe where that plan was going from the most recent strategic plan. When we had that proposal and idea a few years ago, and obviously you always want to plan, and if you don't, you determine not to move forward. I can try to find my other file on what I had for a break even. I got that after I had submitted this document already. I guess that would be somewhat of your determination if we want to go solely off of break even, or if you think we would be demolishing the existing building with that. So previously we had proposed to have that structure on the southeast part of the park, the community center style structure. And it was not proposing to remove the existing building, so I guess we would have to consider what would be going in the new building, and then what, if it would be worthwhile to tear down the existing or have both. One thing that's very important for us is that we have summer day camp there. So depending on what type of building the new structure would have and the availability, or dual operation potentially, would be something we would want to consider. If that is not a building that's accessible to us because the intention by the village is that it's used for other initiatives, we'll say, I would certainly push back on getting rid of the existing building for all that it provides our summer day camp for 9 weeks for about 100 kids. So I can try to pull up, and I was just, two-factor authentication here at its finest. So just trying to get to that file to give you what I had for a break even, because I actually got 2 quotes after I submitted this. Give me.
And what we're referencing, Nick, is, it's all speculation and idea and high level. It was just the thought that ran through my head. You don't want to renovate a kitchen on your house if you're planning to move in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that even you might. 'Cause
Maybe.
you get value back, but
you
would
got to
never
do the
renovate it
math.
to
And
tear it down.
yeah, maybe, but you get my point.
Yep, totally. I'm pretty close to having this figure in just a second.
And Nick, also to be clear, we weren't, we didn't make any decisions on demoing the building or anything. I just don't want you to think we
Yeah,
weren't
don't get all-
including
yeah.
you in a discussion that
worry.
was
It's
more
got-
serious.
Came here for lights, got a little caught off.
Yeah, so don't,
Gotcha.
Yeah,
no, that,
it was a setup.
no, no.
Okay, so they're estimating annual savings of about $2,400 a year. So really your break even's pretty quick.
That's all I need.
And this actually quote in hand we have is $5,995. So really you're at 2.5 years.
And it's also going to improve the lighting and security, illuminate everything like that. And then 3 years. Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I would make a motion to approve the replacement of the lighting conversion at Village Park,
And then Nick's memo says at a cost up to $7,000.
up to $7,000.
Second, Stouff.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nick.
Nick.
Review, discussion, and possible action to approve the quarterly financial reports. Colin, great job. I'm just gonna ask, are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular item?
No, I just want to say this was very nicely put together. I like your memo here. That's outlining different things, what you thought was perceived as important with different variances and some other explanations, even going into the accounts that are currently under our budget threshold for year-to-date at that 75% mark. I just want to give you compliments as to how well that was put together.
Oh, thank you. The 70% of the annual budget is assuming all of our expenses are linear. As we know, most of them aren't, but as a whole, we're pretty close to where we should be for the year.
I also love a good recap, so thank you for that, the notes, I agree.
And I like the fund balance, because I'm the one that always asks for that, so I like, I like that report a lot.
Yeah, we'll be hopefully improving that projection over winter.
Are there any other questions? Well, then I'll look for a motion to approve it as presented.
Motion to approve as presented.
Here we have a motion and a second. Are there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Thank you, Colin.
How easy that is when you're so, put all the work in ahead of time like that.
Review, discussion, and possible action on operator license denial for Kyle Theon, Cranky's, 719 Glacier Road. We have the gentleman here that is, well, let's start out, Matt. You can start out and then go from there. Or actually, Jennifer,
Yeah, I'll start.
not
So-
Jennifer.
I knew who you meant.
Jenna.
Got it.
So due to our parameters for denial of an operator's license, this is just one of those things at the bottom, number 12, just a felony conviction substantially related to alcohol or drug activity will automatically be denied. So that is why it is before the board. There was, the conviction was for the manufacture or deliver of heroin as a felony on March 22nd of 2026. So that is just why it's for the board. The operator can come to the board and request it to not be denied and kind of state their case.
I'm sorry, did you say it was of 2026?
Nope, sorry, 2016. Did I say 26?
You did.
Oh my gosh, sorry.
That crystal ball.
2016.
Crystal ball, right?
March 22nd of 2016. Okay, sorry, those got jumbled together. So that is why it is before the board. So the operator has asked to come to the board and speak with you.
Just before the operator does, and he will have it, or the applicant, excuse me, you will have a chance to speak, sir. Just to clarify for the record, Jenna, so the police department did conduct a background check to the applicant?
Oh, yes, there was a background check, and the police chief recommended denial on the number 12, that
Okay.
term. Yeah.
On the number 12 factor, and that's a
Yes.
felony conviction as you've set forth here. And I know we spoke on this prior to the meeting. Were there any other criminal convictions that showed up on this application?
The ones that I presented?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yes.
Could you just recite those for the board?
Yeah. Do you want the date presented first and then the?
Yes, the date and then the violation.
Okay, I'll try to say this right this time. Okay, so June 4th of 2014, bail jumping, that was a misdemeanor. And then November 21st of 2022, disorderly conduct, also a misdemeanor.
All right, so the clerk has correctly identified the parameters, as she said, in our code as to when an operator's license can be denied. And one of those factors is if the applicant has a felony conviction. But what the board has to determine in making that denial is whether the felony conviction that is on the applicant's record is substantially related to the activity that's going to be licensed here, bartending. So is the felony conviction for the manufacture and delivery of heroin from 2016, is that substantially related enough to the activity that this applicant is seeking to be licensed where we can deny it? And there's case law that suggests that there is enough of a nexus between a drug conviction of this sort and being a bartender, working with the public, being asked to follow rules and regulations related to serving alcohol, cooperation with police, things like that. There's case law that suggests that that nexus does exist. However, the applicant, like I said, and we alluded to, does have the opportunity to present his case and present anything he finds mitigating as to why he should be granted this license. So to sum it up, our code does provide you have the opportunity to make that finding and make a denial here, but the applicant does have the opportunity to make his case, and you have the discretion to grant this license on the recommendation of the police department if you see fit. So if the applicant wants to come up.
Can I ask one quick question before the applicant speaks? Were there any of the other 12 that the applicant failed or was
Of
flagged?
the other 12? Let's see. The only thing, so it's a mixture, so the past 5 years, so the only thing that was in the past 5 years was the disorderly conduct. I don't know what that would, let's see what that would be. So it's not 1 through 3. Number 10. So that would also fall under number 10.
So the misdemeanor happened while bartending?
No.
Okay.
No, and that's.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. No, not that one. I didn't read all of that, sorry. Okay, no, so it would not be number 10.
So any conviction that the clerk has recited this evening, whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor, the board still has to make the same determination at the end of the day. Are those convictions substantially related to the activities of being a bartender? Sir, you want to come up and state your name and address, please?
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for taking me. I'm Kyle Thielen, 780 North Barker Road, Brookfield, Wisconsin is where I reside. Thanks for giving me the time. I know I have a criminal record. I've worked very, very, very hard to put that behind me. Even so much that I did bring some papers here. I've been bartending for Cranky's Pub. The owner's with us here, so is my dad and my mom. And I actually even got my OF 306 approval for my elevated background investigation for contract work with the federal government. I brought a letter that I wrote for my hiring with the federal government. I just want to read a portion of it, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in 2014, as a younger man, I made a regrettable error in judgment that resulted in a felony charge. This experience profoundly impacted my life, serving as a pivotal moment that led to significant personal transformation. Over the past 11 years, I've dedicated myself to sobriety, personal accountability, and building a strong support system through my family and community. This challenging period taught me invaluable lessons about resilience, responsibility, and respect for the rule of law, including a deep appreciation for the role of law enforcement in maintaining a just society. Since that time, I've maintained consistent employment, pursued further education, and volunteered in my community, demonstrating my commitment to living a life of integrity and purpose. So I did also bring the police report from the disorderly conduct incident. That was with my ex-fiancée when she was, I was the designated driver, and I do have the reports here, the police reports from Officer Tate Sherbach. as well as another officer here, Justin Butina. That was when I was the designated driver and my fiance and I went out for dinner, and her ex-boyfriend started buying us shots. So, buying her shots, and I said, let's leave respectfully. And she wanted to continue drinking, and I flattened her tire. I popped her tire. So, the officers were trying to get hold of me. I was out of town for work, and I got the disorderly conduct because she wanted to press charges on the tire costs in the towing. But a few weeks prior to that, she was driving on the wrong side of the interstate drunk, and I wasn't going to have it. And her own brother called the police department on her, Waukesha County and Milwaukee County sheriffs. And she ditched to the airport and caught a plane. And so yes, I flattened her tire. And I was more than cordial in the courtroom with that whole incident, and I ended up having to pay her over $1,000, which I did, and I learned a lesson from it, that it was probably a blessing in disguise, and to choose who I date more wisely. But it had nothing to do with, there was no aggression on site, there was no violence on site, and I'm trying very hard to work in construction as well, and to put my past behind me. And I appreciate an opportunity to be reconsidered for my operator's license. Thank you.
A couple of questions, sir. So you said you have a Form OF 306?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a copy of that?
I have the, right here.
If you submit that to the clerk, are you gonna have it?
Yep.
Are you gonna have a copy for yourself or?
Yeah, that's
did you
fine.
bring
Yeah,
a
I brought
copy for us?
the email that says that I was well received right here. I can actually email her the official form.
Okay, I
as
just
well.
wanna make sure that you're not giving us your only copy.
No, that's okay. And this is right from the United States Antarctic Program.gov.
Okay.
And she says your OF 306 form and your resume have been marked well received, and we can now move on to fingerprinting. And then all the documents right here are for the Antarctic support contract. My contract did get held just because of issues out of Washington, D.C., but I was supposed to already be in New Zealand training with National Guard to be a South Pole station. So bartending is kind of a nice fit to stay busy while I'm trying to do these kind of strange and, you know, like 6-month type of contracting jobs that pay decent money and get me out of Dodge, so to say.
I just want to make sure if you want to submit documentation to the clerk, that you have an opportunity to do
Yep,
so.
and
So, and you want to give the police report as well?
Yes, I can give all. All of that in the police report here. And this is a copy of my responsible beverage license, of course. That's now that one's my only copy.
Oh, okay, yes.
Which I did.
you emailed that. I actually don't.
Thank you.
Okay, does the board have any comments or questions? Go ahead, sir.
After your conviction, you served your sentence completely?
I did.
Did you participate in any drug and alcohol-related classes and rehabilitation?
Absolutely. Yes, I did. Yep. Yes, I did.
And this was 11 years ago?
Yes, sir.
You never had any other drug convictions or anything else that were obviously been?
Nope.
Any other questions or comments?
I appreciate the strength that probably took to get up and stand at this podium after that was just read aloud. So thank you for taking the time to say your piece. I guess my question is I believe people can make a mistake and rectify their life. Do you truly believe that being in a bar setting and bartending is a good choice for you?
Yeah, just because I've done it since I've been 18. This is when my first certificate here was from 2003, right after I graduated. And I've been doing it with my mom since I've been 18 for banquets at Olympia, and then I worked at Buc-ee's. The reason I like Cranky's is because it's kind of an older clientele, so there's not a lot of shenanigans. You know, it's not like an Okachi Lake bar. You know, it's well behaved, and I, you know, serve serve cocktails as a gentleman there, and it's a nice way to make some supplemental income while I'm between deployment. So,
Any other questions or comments?
I wanna thank you as well for saying what you said. I mean, we're the only mammals on this planet that get judged for our past every single day, so.
Yeah.
And as a former bartender for over a decade, I appreciate that you're coming up here as well. Are you practicing sobriety?
I drink alcohol, but
Okay.
responsibly. Yep.
Fantastic. And then may I also ask if it's okay, the owner of Crane Keys, I mean, obviously Kyle, I think he's great. Could you tell me why you want him to work for you?
And if you do, sir, just come up to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Malcolm Dix, 110, it just moved. Long Meadow Drive, Heartland. He's worked for us under his temporary, and everybody seems to like him. He does a good job. He's friendly, he's outgoing, he engages the customers, and he shows up for work when he's supposed to. You know, and that's all we can expect from somebody. He does what he's supposed to do. He does it in a timely manner. What can I expect? People are hard, good employees are hard to find. And so far, he's been a good employee, and I don't want to lose him.
How long has he been working for you currently?
I'm hard of hearing, pardon me?
How long has he been working for you currently?
Couple of months, whatever is temporary, let him work until it expires. Probably 24 to 30 hours a week.
Any other comments? I'd just like to make one comment. The board in the past has recognized giving people a second chance and a third. And it, from what I've understood, it's worked out very well. Mr. Cranky, if you don't mind saying that. I know you, and his clientele is, like he said, is pretty much the older group. I lived just down the street from him, never had any issues, problems, anything like that in that area. And I'm all for, you know, it's been 11 years, and I know how things can get when you get somebody going and they're doing shots and you're telling them to stop, and it just kind of steamrolls. Maybe you should have just walked away and went home, you know, but anyway, I'm okay with giving him a shot.
I have a question. For the attorney, or for Matt, maybe, the police chief reviewed this, and was their recommendation strictly because of like going down the, 1 through 12 and here's the answer, or was it specific to this scenario with all the details? And
Yeah, it was specific to number 12. It's just an automatic denial. The chief is pretty, I don't want to say lenient and speak for him, but he usually agrees that second chances are due where it's, necessary. But I believe it was just because our parameters do say if it is a felony conviction, you do have to deny it just automatically no matter what.
That's at a staff level. You, as the board, retain the discretion
Yeah.
to make the decision otherwise.
Right,
But
yeah.
staff does not have that.
Yeah.
say.
So that was why he had to do the denial, and then it, goes to the board.
okay.
Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Last thing for me, Mr. Kyle, if you could just maybe stay afterwards, I'd like to have a private conversation with you. Has nothing in regards to actually this, but pleasure to meet you. And I'm a firm believer in second chances. In 11 years, that says a lot about you. So I hope the board does approve you, and welcome to the village. So, you're welcome.
So if there are no further questions or comments.
I just have one. One thing's like really bothering me. It's the heroin piece of it. Like, that's not, sorry, this is probably more for Kyle, but if you have comments on it as well, sir.
I want to know what's going on with that. I can tell you.
Well, I don't, you know, I raise my kids in this community. I don't want to be approving, like I said before, and I mean it, that I believe in second chances. You know, we've all seen people come and thrive from that. But that is, you know, that's more serious than I was expecting.
Yeah, and I can, if you would let me
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I told Chief this, and he said, just be 100% honest. It was the guy that I was buying weed from years ago. And he got pinched in Oconomowoc, and he set me up to go and pick an envelope up from a hotel room. And I did it for him. And in that envelope was a gram of heroin. And during my conviction, and all of the, I mean, it was a long time on absolute sobriety through the court system. I failed no drug tests. I was then commended by Judge Carter, Lloyd V. Carter, fantastic judge in Waukesha County. He was very, he's like, I'm very surprised that you have failed no drug tests, you have not. And I said, well, it's because I didn't use heroin. I said it was the guy that I was getting marijuana from. So yeah, it's embarrassing, as that is to say. On that.
Are there any other questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve or not? To approve the denial or deny the approval?
No.
Let's do this again.
It's either gonna be a motion to approve the operator's license, where if that's the motion, you don't need any reasoning beyond that. The motion is to deny the operator's license. There has to be some finding as to why the offense substantially relates to.
Motion to approve the operator license for Kyle Thielen at Cranky's at 719 Glacier Road.
Second, Stouff.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
We give you our best.
You don't have to, but I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Review and item G, review and discussion of possible action on temporary Class B wine, Class B beer, retailer's license for Positively Pewaukee. Has everybody had a chance to look it over? I guess this is for a event that they're gonna have. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to that? And if there are none, I'll look for a motion to approve as presented.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve temporary Class B wine, Class B beer retailer's license for Positively Pewaukee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review and discussion of possible action on a new Class B beer, Class B intoxicating liquor for Four Seasons, Wisconsin LLC, located at 1405 Capitol Drive, Suites B, C, D, and E. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to that particular item? Looks like they're putting in a golf course.
Simulator, indoor.
Indoor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super ecstatic about that. That's great.
If there are no questions or comments, someone would like to make a motion?
Sorry, this is just for beer?
No, it's
No,
for
this
everything.
is
It's
the
the full
full-
line.
Oh, Class beer is everything, right?
Yep.
Yep,
No,
the
it's for
combination
class, it's for everything. It's a full license. Beer,
Yep.
liquor, wine. It's the last one we've got.
It's
Yes.
the license that we.
Got back.
Yes, so the one that was given back to us from the deli, yes, this is that one.
Yes.
Do you have
The
any,
motion.
Jenna, do you have any conditions?
Oh, yes, at the very bottom, just that all fees are paid and the Wisconsin seller's permit is provided to the clerk before the issuance of the license. if you got all
Those
that.
those conditions are adopted in any.
They're at the bottom of the memo, yeah.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion with those conditions added?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second, Peter?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, and possible action on a notice of intent to the Safe Drinking Water Fund for 2026 water
Shoot
project.
an email tomorrow.
Well, number 7. Matt, I think we will ask you for this one.
Thank you, President Knutson. This would authorize staff to pursue a safe drinking water loan fund next year. We're anticipating potential activity with Well 7. It's in the design phase right now, and then once the design is complete, staff will be coming back with a potential proposal to drill the well, and then after that, there would be facilities constructed around that. The notice of intent is required by the fund to make sure that they have enough money available for everybody who's going to apply the next year. So they require everybody who's thinking about it to kind of give them a heads up. That's what this is. It doesn't commit the village to spending this money or to this particular loan. In previous projects, I've perpetuated a project forward, rolled it forward 3-4 times. There's no penalty, just as long as if you intend on applying the next year, you got to make sure you make that October 31st deadline. Just in reviewing the Safe Drinking Water Loan Fund with Baird, our financial consultants, it's a good source for utilities to borrow from. It generally offers rates that are about 2 full percentage points below market.
Any comments or questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the notice of intent of Safe Drinking Water Fund for 2026 water project Goal 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review and discussion of letter of village support for passenger train service map.
Thank you, President Knutson. So Amtrak is exploring extending their Hiawatha run, which currently connects the cities of Milwaukee and Chicago. And they're looking at extending a western leg that would go from Milwaukee to the city of Madison. And if that were to go forward, they would have passenger stops naturally in Madison where it ends, in Watertown, and then somewhere in this region, either in the village or the city of Pewaukee. This project is hugely dependent on DOT and federal funding. So one of the things that Amtrak has asked us to do is to ask all the potential passenger stop locations to do is to support this effort. So one of the things we did was partner in a letter to the governor saying, please support this financially when you receive the Amtrak's application. And the village president signed that. I also included in the packet some materials from Amtrak to just give you some historical background or some informational background on the proposed addition and where possible locations could be within the village. If this were to unfold and we would have a stop, the one municipal obligation wherever the stops occur is the host communities are responsible for parking. So that would be something we would have to deal with in the future. There's no action before you tonight. This is really just to bring you up to date on any evolving issue. And if you have any questions, let me know.
What are they looking at as the potential cost to the state of Wisconsin taxpayers for this project? Do you know?
I don't know.
That's okay.
There might be some figures in that presentation that I attached.
Any other questions or comments?
May I make a comment
Yeah.
about this? I've actually talked to a few residents about this, and obviously there's no action required, but just some comments I've already heard when just actually looked at the agenda, which is very cool to see.
Agreed.
Train stations bring havoc. That's all they said to me. You get interstate travelers, you get wanderers, and you get riffraff throughout train stations. So I would like to make that comment public that this might not be the best fit for Pewaukee.
Any other comments? Here again, many years back, a group came to us and asked the village if they were interested in doing something similar. And it was not, I don't believe it was the same people. And they had a spot picked out, and everything looked like it might go forward, but it all fell apart. But there seemed to be some support for it, but I think the thing that killed it the most was the train would be heading and it would end at the airport, which is on the way northwest side of Madison. So for somebody to go to Madison and back to the train costs more than it would be to drive there. Plus, it took much longer due to the stops. I felt it was something that could be good for the village, especially with the 150th coming up. People may want to take the train ride out here. So I thought that this would be something that we should just at least look into. But as the final details come in as far as costs and all of that, again, like Matt said, this isn't saying that, yeah, we will do whatever it takes. It's just we're interested in it, but we're not at this time saying we're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah, there's no commitment.
There's no commitment. So that's the only reason that Matt brought it forward to me to sign. So. Anyway, are there any other questions or comments?
I was also curious about the cost of, and where it would all come from and how it all trickles down, but the general concept, I think is, there's a lot of potential there. I mean, I think there's several benefits, and if you look at, all the big cities and things like that, like having more centralized transportation is beneficial in a lot of ways. So I'm interested to hearing more as it goes along.
And for those of you who don't know the history, where the one parking lot is downtown across the tracks, that was the original train station. That looked just like what's on the lakefront, similar to it, for many, many, many years. This was the area to come to during the summer. So, anyway, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll go on to item K, review, discussion, and possible action on invoices and checks for September 2025. I will here look for a motion to approve all checks and invoices, excluding the library, for September 2025, as presented.
Motion to approve invoices and checks from September 2025, excluding the library as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Excuse me. Next, I'd like a motion to acknowledge all checks and invoices presented from the library for September 2025.
Motion to acknowledge the checks and balance and invoices from the library for, sorry, for, was that for October or for September? September 2025.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 9, citizen comments is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinions with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with time being indicated by an audible alarm. When the alarm sounds, speakers are asked to conclude their comments. Speakers are asked to please use the podium and state their name and address for the record. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? No? Okay, then item 10 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Somebody like to take these home?
From a grave.
Thank you.